Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the February committee meeting of the Penns Manor Board of Education. But before I turn the agenda over to Mr. John, I wonder if you would join me in just a moment of silence for Mr. Ron Belchick. Okay, thank you. At next week's public board meeting, I will share a few thoughts and comments about Mr. Belchick. Okay, Mr. Johnston.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Packer. If you take a look at your agenda, Mrs. Eglin, we're just going to, we'll come right back to you because we're going to move to tax collectors since they're here with us this evening. And as soon as they're done, we'll come back to you. So, Mr. Muscatello, do you want to introduce our taxpayers?
We have here we have Joan Stupik, who represents Pine Township, Karen Markle, who represents Cherry Hill Township, and Dan Berkey, who represents Clymer Borough. You guys have the floor. Oh, I didn't even see you back there. Oh, and okay.
Is everybody able to hear me? Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I am Dan Berkey, the tax collector in Clymer Borough, which those of us that are tax collectors, we collect taxes for the school district being elected in our individual municipalities. We collect for the school district as well as our municipality and the county as well. I don't know if you all have a copy of our letter or not. It reads, we are writing in regards to the compensation for elected tax collectors in the Penns Manor Area School District. According to the State Tax Collectors Manual, our compensation can only be set by February 15th of the election year for tax collectors, and 2021 is the election year for all three of us tax collectors. We would like to walk through our job duties and provide a background information on why we believe our compensation should be increased. To most, our jobs might seem to only include collecting of taxes, depositing money, and writing checks. However, our work extends far beyond what is seen on the surface. As engaged members of our community, we interact with the tax collectors not only during our set office hours, but at many other times outside of our offices. We have had tax discussions and accepted payments at all times of the day, any day, holidays, even during my wife's funeral. In the weirdest of places, including church, grocery stores, high school football games, post offices, and just about anywhere we walk. Karen says she was at a wedding. Being a tax collector is a big commitment, both in terms of time and responsibility. We must handle and are responsible for large sums of money, maintaining and updating all real estate and per capita addresses, and submit to the courthouse. Record all payments in our duplicates, issue duplicate bills, tax certifications, and receipts as needed. Every month, we must scan each and every bill, upload them to data processing, which is part of preparing our monthly reports for each taxing district. We constantly have new requirements added to our job. Every December, we are now required to mail reminder notices to all unpaid real estate taxes. Even though it adds to our workload, we receive no additional compensation for this service. However, we feel that everyone benefits greatly from these reminders. The district sees increased collections, and taxpayers are appreciative that they are reminded and can pay before the bills are sent to claims. Another recent requirement from the state, Act 48, requires that all tax collectors obtain 2 hours of mandatory continuing education during their term of office, which must be fit in around our other duties. Being a tax collector also requires a monetary commitment. Our homes are our offices, and we own personal equipment to perform these duties. We provide our own computers, calculators, fax machines, and copiers. However, the school district has made copiers available to us when and if needed. The purchase and maintenance of these items is handled entirely by us. While we do appreciate the district's reimbursement for a portion of our office supplies, we still must pay out our own electricity, extra liability, fire insurance, heat, phone, for trips to the bank, to the courthouse, to our municipalities, and to the school district. As you know, these items increase in cost each and every year. In addition, we began to lose bills and compensation during the 2016 reassessment, when many taxpayers were encouraged by the county to put parcels into one tax bill. Due to this, Cherry Hill Township has lost over, what's your updated number?
Well, for just the year from 2015 to 2016, I lost 225 bills, but each year my pay has gone down as a tax collector. And this year.
Okay, because I'm gonna log off this one.
And in 2019, I lost over $230. In 2018, I lost $64. And like I said, it was $765 I lost in 2016. So each year, my paycheck has gone down, even though my duties have not. And it's
Karen, can you hang on a second? Are you board members probably can't hear Karen, can you?
This microphone right over here. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to hear you.
Yeah, hang on just a second. We'll try to get her a microphone.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dan.
Well, that's all right. What we're talking about is we get paid from the district, we get paid a per bill fee, meaning we send this bill to the taxpayer and we get paid 55 cents for doing that.
And
So-
from when the reassessment came in 2015 and they combined their parcels, I lost 225 bills, and that gave me a total of $765 in income, less than I had made the year before. And it's the same throughout each year. I have continually lost parcels, and I lost 63 in 2018. In 2019, I lost $230, and then this year I lost 71. And it's kind of discouraging when I'm still doing the same amount of work, but I'm receiving less income for it through no fault of my own, really.
So Pine Township lost over 50 parcels. In Clymer, I'm not so bad. I only lost 3. What happens is people combine their parcels together. So instead of paying for 3 parcels, they're assessed for 1, which reduces their taxes. But in reducing their taxes, which is good for the taxpayer, it reduces the number of bills that we have to send out.
Right.
So as a per bill fee, we drop in compensation. While we have the new requirements and the hardships of our job, We want to reiterate that we enjoy them and look forward to re-election in November.
Yes.
We are honest, competent, and productive tax collectors with a combined 4 decades of experience serving the Penns Manor District. We work hard at our jobs, and it shows in the percentage of collections that we have reported over the recent years. We have achieved 90% or more on the real estate side. Per capita side is always considerably less. So we have achieved 90% or more in collections during the past year, which totals close to $4 million in tax revenue to the school district. We're the lowest paid tax collectors in the 8 school districts in Indiana County. You have, do they have the attached sheet? You have the attached sheet and shows how our colleagues are compensated in the surrounding districts. Please consider our duties and these facts when setting our new compensation rates. We know that 2020 was a difficult year, and we still don't know what 2021 holds. However, we ask you to consider our request for increased compensation. Taking these hard times in mind, please know that a one-time increase or a gradual increase every year would bring us in better alignment with the rate of our fellow tax collectors within the county. In closing, we would like to thank you for your service to our school district. We know that you make many tough decisions and receive. We realize that it becomes harder and harder each year to balance the budget with limited funds and rising costs. So as you set our compensation for the next term, we hope you will base it on what is fair to the district, the taxpayers, and to us, the tax collectors. If re-elected this fall, we will continue to provide the district residents with excellent service. And the attached sheet shows the 8 school districts within the county and how those tax collectors are paid by those school districts.
And would you happen to know the number of bills for each one of the districts? Do you have that? Okay, and Dan, what, I'm not sure I understand, what's like the 330 or 355 per bill plus 355 per installments to?
The school district is permitted to allow installment payments, meaning what happens there is we get paid $3.55 for sending the bill out. Whether it's paid or not, we get paid to send the bill out. That's $3.55. If you choose, or the taxpayer chooses to pay through the installment plan, they then must send the second bill, the second coupon to us. In receiving that coupon, by legislation, we are permitted to receive additional compensation for that. And then to complete the payment program, they must send in the third coupon. Otherwise, by legislation, we are permitted to receive additional compensation for that. So for that one taxpayer, we would receive $3.55 3 times, where the person who pays all at once, we just receive $3.55.
But also you have to keep in mind that not everybody completes the whole 3 installments. We'll have some that will only make the first installment payment and not the second or third, or they may make the first and second, but not the last installment. So we're only getting paid for the installment that comes in that we're handling again for the 3.
How?
And we turn in to Josh at the end of the year how many installments we collected, so they know how much we're to be compensated for.
So the schools that charge just the per bill and they don't have anything per installment, how does that work? I'm sure they have installment payments.
They have, yeah. And what happens there is the tax is paid. You're always paid to mail them out unless you see here the school districts that pay. If you get a dual pay, they generally pay less for the mailing and larger for the collection part. Where here, we only get paid to mail it out. It doesn't matter whether it's collected or not collected.
Dan, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the school district isn't obligated to pay for the installment payments. We've chosen to pay you for the
Unions
installment payments.
agreed to
And
that.
that's why, because chosen to pay for installments.
So purchase line at 425 per bill, they'll have installment payments.
But they're not paying for them.
They're not paying.
They're not paying their tax collectors to
No,
collect them.
no, you as the
Gotcha.
school district
Okay,
have your choice. If you enact the installment plan, you have your choice to compensate per installment, where not all school districts do that.
okay.
Here
Thank-
in Penns Manor, you do compensate for the 3 installments.
And that was brought before the board whenever that happened.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
As you see, Indiana School District does not compensate for the installment plan.
Apollo Ridge does.
Are we done? Any other questions?
I'd like to, I'm sorry, I'm a talker. I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut. But I just wanted Jens to know that we also handle escrows. And we get a lot of requests from various mortgage companies and banks requesting that we send them the bill. That really does take up a lot of time. I know I get quite a few offers, and there's quite a few parcels in my district. And we're responsible to pull those out before we start stuffing our envelopes for mail out. And then those are collected. We have to record that in our book that went out as an escrow and who it went out to. And we also receive quite a few, sometimes, bills back with yellow tags on them from the post office stating either there's a new address, sometimes it's like no forward address, sometimes it's simply they're out of town. Those all have to be recorded that they were returned when they were returned, and then they have to be remailed and new addresses remade and the courthouse notified of those new addresses and stuff. So there's just a lot of ins and outs of our job, but I believe I speak for Dan and Joan as well as myself. I love my job, and it's a perfect fit for me with some of my health issues. I've made numerous friends over the years through my tax collecting job. My tax collector payers well. They know they can come to me as well as Dan and Joan with any questions or help they may need. We go above and beyond a lot of times in what we're even required to do by making phone calls to find out information if we don't know the answer to it for some of their questions. And I think we're fortunate that we work for a school district that we like working with and for. Josh has been good to work with, and as well as all of you when we have come or needed to come to ask you for something. And the three of us like each other and we get along, and we are willing to help each other. We go to each other sometimes if there's questions. Dan was a great help to Ed and I when we had to take over the new program that Josh initiated for taxes. And Joan was always there to answer any questions we may have. So I think we're a great team. I think we're lucky, and I think yins are lucky to have us. I think I'm done.
To further elaborate on what she said, we as tax collectors are very fortunate because you as the school board do things for us, many things for us that other school districts do not do for their tax collectors. So we are very fortunate to be in this district. And I guess that's it, unless somebody else has more. Joe?
I was just figuring out the money, which I'm, altogether, the three of us mail out a little under $8,000, 8,000 bills. So if you only give us a 10-cent raise, that's only like $800 a year for the three of us. It's not a lot in your millions of dollar budgets, but we'd appreciate it. So, any increase, gradual, if you would increase this up to what some of the other school districts make, that'd be great. But we're not asking for a lot, but every little bit is appreciative. So just wanted to give you that basic figure. 10 cents per bill is only $800. So that's all.
And not to deter you from giving us a raise, we'll still continue to do a good job for you,
This is true.
whether we get it or not. But please, let us get it.
Thank you for listening to us.
Indeed.
Our long-winded letter.
No problem. Any board member have a question? And just to let you know, as the tax collectors, because it's paid, it falls under personnel. So the board will discuss that this evening in executive session, and we'll let back through to you. But is there, before they would leave, but you're always welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but don't feel you're offending us if you leave. Is there any board member online or seated here that have any questions before we dismiss them?
Hey, Darren, this is Jill. I have one question. Could Karen repeat for me how many parcels she lost this last year, please? I got the other two, but I missed Cherry Hill.
In 2020, I lost 20 bills, and which came out to like a 71 decrease in my pay. And in 2019, I lost 65 bills, which was a loss of $230.75 in my, and it just went down.
Okay, Karen, thank you.
A bill is a parcel.
Dan said that I probably should let you know that a bill is a parcel. So when I say I lost like 20 bills or 20 parcels, that's the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you.
Wait, is the per capita a bill too?
Yes.
Okay.
Cabinets go up and down constantly as
Oh.
people move in and move out.
Yeah.
It's
The,
an ongoing battle, the per capita.
Right.
Okay,
The per-
other questions from any board member?
the per capita bill, would it go with real estate also when somebody gets them both? So when you say per capita mailed, is that just for per capita, or does that include, like mine, because I own real estate, I think I get the bill at the same time, don't I?
Yes.
You do. But
Yes, you
people
do.
that rent the state,
Right.
if we know they're there, they also get a per capita bill. So they
Right.
are only paying the $9.80 or $10. They don't have
Right.
the hundreds or
Jo-
thousands. of real estate.
Joan, are you saying for Pine Township, per capita, you mailed out 1,287, or part of that
Yes.
goes with real estate?
No,
I'm just
that's
trying
all
to-
per capita.
Okay,
Yeah, I mail out whatever that I put in. I don't know what
Yeah, Joan, actually,
right.
you gave
before
them.
this meeting, I gave them all the specifics.
Right. Yeah.
And Mr. Hardesty, the document you're looking at, it has the exact numbers for each municipality, real estate and per capita. And I think what your question is they get $355 for the real estate bill and $355 for the per capita bill, whether it's mailed in the same envelope or not.
Correct.
Okay,
That's true.
good enough. Good enough. Thank you.
Yes. Mhm. It's an interesting job. It really is. And I've learned so much over the years. And I love my job.
Any additional questions from any board member? Okay, well, thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank
And
you
again,
for listening to us.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. Okay, we'll go back to our agenda, and we'll go backwards on one item. And under program presentations, Mrs. Zeglin would like to communicate to you about pre-K and kindergarten registration. Mrs. Zeglin?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Johnston. I just wanted everybody to know that we are taking registrations now for both our kindergarten and pre-K programs for the 2021-2022 school year. For our pre-K program, we are encouraging parents now to contact Nicole Peterson in the district office to set up a registration appointment and screening. The deadline for that is March 1. Children must be 4 years old by September 1, but again, please do contact Nicole Peterson for more information. Just so that everybody is aware, I just want to make sure everyone knows that pre-K is a federally funded program. And with that, they are very stringent on how the program operates. Honestly, we were just audited, and again, we received a perfect score. Just want to make sure that everybody is aware that we just received a perfect score again. Our teacher, Mrs. Horn, and coordinator, Mrs. Peterson, continue to ensure the academic excellence and also the financial success of our early childhood program. So again, that deadline is March 1, and children must be 12 years old by September 1 to be eligible. Our kindergarten registration and screenings are scheduled for March 5th. We are filling up quickly. So please reach out to Kathy Vassbinder in our elementary office as soon as possible to begin the kindergarten registration process. We are also looking to add March 12th as another time when parents can bring their children in to be screened, and then also to complete the registration process. I know this may seem early, but believe it or not, this year will go quicker than we expected to. So again, I encourage everyone to please contact Nicole Peterson for a pre-K registration by March 1, and Kathy Vassbinder in the elementary office by, well, actually as soon as possible to fill up either March 5th or March 12th for a kindergarten registration. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zeglin. And I just want to reiterate what Mrs. Zeglin had said. And when she says that the assessment of the pre-K program got a perfect score again for the second year in a row, just so you know, it's not an evaluation that hardly ever gets a perfect score. So I don't want you to think that, oh, well, it's a blue ribbon for everyone. Everybody's a winner. I will tell you that does not happen with pre-K programs across the state. So we are absolutely fortunate for that program and everybody that has their hands in it at the elementary.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston.
Okay, next, if we go down through the agenda, we have nothing this evening under negotiations. Under curriculum, just want to present to you, if you're in the room, there's a hard copy at your table of next year's draft of the school calendar, and it's loaded online for those of you that's online. I want a couple things with this calendar, and it is a draft. I do want to take time to have conversation yet. And again, we'll probably approve this in March. I want to have some conversation with the association to talk about, this past year, we dismissed early on Wednesdays. This calendar isn't appearing that way at this point. I want to have conversation with the administration and also with the teacher group to talk about that differently. To this calendar, we're placing one additional Act 80 day with the 2 traditional in-service days on August 25th. We'll see that additional day in so that it would only be 2 student days that first week. And the reason for that is we're finding ourselves that we're coming back and we are just not having time to get everything in place and going through in-service trainings of the new things that we want to present for the year. We're always finding ourselves about a day short. So that's why we placed that additional day in there. You'll see that the last student day then falls on May 31st. This calendar also has in it 2 snow makeup days. It's pretty much the traditional calendar that we have done in the past, except for I still want to have some conversation about that Wednesday. And again, that will just be needs on trying to assess where we'll be with this new norm we're in. So we'll come back and have those discussions. But just wanted to share out with everyone so you can start looking at it. One of the things that you will see as we try to parallel close the TEC calendar, I think that that may change a little bit because I'm hearing from some other school districts in the county that they want to do a start date of August 30th instead of in the week that we have ours in. So how would that work? Simply, there would be 2 days that our students would not be going to the ICTC, if the ICTC chooses to go to that next week, along with some other districts. Again, this is just a draft. I always like to put it out there a complete month in advance so we can all start talking about it, and we'll place that on the March agenda. It will not be on next week's agenda. Questions, comments?
One question I have, Darren, is as far as like the format we're under right now with half day on Wednesdays, is that considered or is it going to be a full day on Wednesdays in this calendar? How did you look at that?
Right now, it's showing that we would be all full days, but I do want to sit down and talk to administration and also the teachers to see, can we make it happen that way? If we can't, suggesting to you that we go back what we're currently doing now. And you may be saying, well, how are you making that time happen? So Act 80 hours and the requirement of 900 at the elementary and 990. This year, we're actually meeting it with in-person time by even having those half days. So in the past, we have not utilized all that Act 80 time. We made it student face-to-face time. So if we choose to incorporate those Wednesdays back in, we would requirements.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions on calendar? Okay. Next, under budget and finance, actually, I want to thank Josh. He had submitted a grant application. I'll let him talk a little bit about that. And we were awarded the U.S. Department of Agriculture him for writing that and submitting it. Josh, you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, just quickly, this is actually an extremely competitive grant for two reasons. One, they don't actually allocate a lot of money. And two, there are always tons of requests. Historically, what we find is that most of the school districts that operate their own cafeteria, which is almost all school districts, operate those cafeterias at a loss. And so any grants you can get in those cafeterias typically are really well received. Let me just give you a couple of numbers. First, there were over 300 applicants in Pennsylvania for grants for this program, totaling $5.3 million in requests. 59 buildings were selected in Pennsylvania. 2 of those buildings were ours. I'm by no means patting myself on the back. As a matter of fact, Mr. Johnson is giving me undue praise because Mr. McCauley, our cafeteria director, wrote most of the grant. So you know, we're replacing 2 food warmers or food handlers that keep the food warm prior to us serving it. The current warmers we have, I understand, are at least 15 years old. And hopefully this is the beginning of us receiving a significant number of cafeteria grants, because as I understand it, a lot of the equipment in there is getting pretty old. So, but anyways, I think the amount was, yeah, $7,000 to replace two cabinets.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Any questions on that? Okay, if not, moving along to letter B under budget and finance. It's that time of year again that we take a look at the ARIU general operating budget. There are 2 attachments, and we're asking you to approve the general operating budget. You'll see a memo from Mr. Wagner as the director of the IU indicating, excuse me, that the general operating budget is remaining the same and has for the past 7 years. You will also see in there that each school district needs to approve that budget along with, excuse me, the ARIU board. So that's a memo from him, the first attachment. The second one is a complete general operating budget for you to take a look at. If you would take a look actually on page 10, but it actually says, if you could, but it, for some reason it says page 2 at the bottom, you will see the school contributions for that general operating budget. So next week, we will have a motion asking you to approve the ARIU operating budget for the next coming school year. Our total cost is $22,643. Although the memo says that the overall budget has not changed at the IU, if you're doing any comparison, that is a $128 increase for us. That's just based on the fluctuation of enrollments across the districts within the IU. Any questions on that one? And again, that's just general operating budget. Just want to remind everyone that we purchase a lot of services from Aaron IU that's incorporated into our overall budget. As you know, we'll be working until May and June for the next fiscal budget. And again, we do contracted services through the IU close to about $600,000. So as we go through the budget, we'll have conversations on it. This motion is strictly on the general operating budget for the next school year. Any questions? Okay. If not, we'll move into buildings and grounds. First item, and again, this is just to create conversation and for you to consider. You know, we've had discussions about putting guide rail out along 553 by the elementary due to an accident of a vehicle coming off the road. And our request to PennDOT to put guide rail there. They don't feel that it's warranted to be there. I will tell you that their plan is to put white reflectors about every 40 feet down along 553. But with that said, just looking for your consideration. I know we've talked before and had recommendations to look at companies to look at guide rail. So we have done that. In a footage wise, we would need 625 feet of guide rail. Both of these quotes that's in front of you, again, is used guide rail that we would place. Just so you understand, that guide rail would be placed in on our property along the line. And again, this would start at the edge of the parking lot at our second driveway and go down past the basket. Again, 625 feet. First quote you can see in front of you from Green Acres is a total of $9,968.75. The next quote to get a comparison was from Pennline, and that was $14,327.50. And we can have discussion. If you want more information, we can certainly get that. Don't know if that's something that you want to consider, talk about now and have on the agenda, or if you would like to think about it, to get more information. Comments, questions?
Yeah, why wouldn't the state do it?
Okay, so there's a couple variation and reasons that I've been given. One, so let me make sure I get all these right. So in looking at the assessment of putting a guide rail, they take a look at amount of slope off the edge of the road. Okay, so that one, they don't feel that there's enough slope there. Second, they take a look at if there's runoff space for a vehicle to recover or not have a driver injured. And so in looking at the space that is there, they have indicated, and that range I'm being told is 24 feet. And with that distance there, they feel that a vehicle leaving the roadway would be able to stop or not have injury done to the driver. So here's what we've got to understand. So according to the representatives from PennDOT, they must be focused on drivers. Okay. Us, we're sitting here as a school. We want the focus to be on students. And so our responsibility is students. Their responsibility they have to put as number one is drivers. So they take a look at, did the driver get injured when they left the roadway? In both of our cases that we had, driver wasn't injured. Okay. Space for runoff, there's 24 feet in their calculation. And so the other thing is that if they do put a guide rail, every time they put a barrier, that is when they look at that situation, they look at that as an obstacle that could, if a driver hits that guide rail, reflect that vehicle back, causing injury to even oncoming traffic. So those are the reasons that I was given. I had also stated, well, I see in the guidelines that there can be variance because it's a playground. And when talking to the representative that talked to me last, he indicated that he understands that that's there, but in looking at overall aspects in that location, does not feel that it's warranted there.
And we've had 2 already that could have hurt a student.
2.
If it would
Two.
have, if it would have been
Sure.
play period, they
Sure.
would have been out. So we had 2. Within how many years?
2.
2 years.
Yep.
So within, so we're having 1 car a year come off the road and could potentially strike a student. Correct?
Correct.
Do we need maybe to go to Struzzi, our
I
representative?
did that.
Okay.
Okay. So I have contacted Mr. Representative Struzzi's office, Senator Pittman. They have communicated, and that's what. So let me tell you, we've communicated numerous times with PennDOT, and so the last time I was communicated by phone, and he said he was going to give a written response to Representative Struzzi so that he had an answer back. I've asked Representative Struzzi's office to send that to me when he gets it, because when I talked to him and asked him if I could be given a copy of it, he told me no, that I had to get it through Mr. Struzzi's office. So I'm waiting on the written response that I can provide to all of you, but that's the verbal is what I'm being told is going to be in the letter.
I mean,
Sure. Sure, you can ask me a question.
I'm curious, when you stated that PennDOT said about the car possibly hitting the guardrail and bouncing across and going over to the other side, maybe causing more injury.
Sure.
If the school went ahead on their own and put that guardrail in, would there be a possibility, if that were to happen, where someone did shoot across into oncoming traffic or whatever, causing injury, that the school could be held liable because of that being put up?
So it would be a lot if it's up along the road and they hit it. If I ask our school solicitor, which is a good question, I asked Mr. Saffron, I said, so if the board has discussion and plans to put guide rail on our school property and someone would hit that, would we then be liable? First, we live in a world that anybody can sue anyone. That was the first response. Second, because it's on your property, if that crossed and onto the school property, hits the guide rail we would install, they would be trespassing on our property, is his comment. So he sees no reason that the school could not put the guide rail on school property.
Even the opposing driver that may be involved in the accident wouldn't be able to sue either?
No. Location that we would place it, it's going to
Maybe
be
not
far
the
enough
school,
back.
that the other driver maybe.
So I think you're looking at 2 situations. So if the guide rail's up along the road, which is what they're saying, they don't feel that it's warranted to put there. If it was put there, then that would be liability, I'm being told, with PennDOT. If we have to put our guide rail at least off that right of way, which is past that 24 feet from the road, that becomes on our school property. So I would be in my guess estimate, where if we would end up putting that guide rail on our property, I would not see a vehicle bouncing off back up across that 24 feet back up onto the road into another lane.
Mhm. Thank you.
Sure.
Just press this.
Yep. Questions, comments from
yeah,
anyone?
back to Struzzi. So you
Sure.
didn't get the letter back from him?
I haven't got it yet, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I think we need to ask again. I mean, that's a state. That's a state. This is a school. We've had one a year. When's that one going to happen when someone's out there playing basketball? Yeah, well, we can't have that because we. I think we need to put pressure on them.
Here's the only thing that I would say, and I'm all about it. I mean, I'm about finding out. I'm about asking. I would hope, and I can ask, why haven't I got the written response from Mr. Struzzi's office yet? I don't know if it hasn't been sent from PennDOT to them or if it's held up in my request. All I would say, and I would ask all of us to consider is that we now know that it's happened. And I'm just going to say, sitting here as a superintendent, I mean, it scares me to death. And we continue to not do something, and then it happens. So, I mean, I get it. I know we want somebody else to put something there, and I can sit here and agree that it should be PennDOT putting it there. But I guess I'm just asking ourselves just to think a little bit, well, how long do we wait? And in that wait time, could something happen? Yes, something could happen.
Darren, it's Jill. Did they give you any
Yes.
idea, these two, like if we would choose one of these and approve it, what would be the timeline? Like when would they be able to start? I mean, I know they can't do it in the snow, but what would be an estimate of when it could start?
Mr. Dalton, can you hear? Can you make a comment to that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Speaking with them, Penn Line did not give me an indication of when they, Penn Line said they would prefer to wait until June when the ground was hard and they could run the equipment between the playground and the road. Green Acres did not indicate that they would need to wait at all on it. I'm thinking they indicated that they could, once we approved it, we could come up with a timeline as long as it's not too wet in that area.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Other questions, comments?
What about grants? Is there any safety grants that we can get?
So I asked both offices too at the same time that if they could they send anything to me? I have not received anything. And so you may also be saying, well, Mr. Johnson, you usually get, the district usually gets safety grants. But I will tell you, you can get about everything in safety grants except anything that has to do with a barrier. So if I would want to put, let's say, bollards out here, it clearly says that you can't put that into the grant. So if you want cameras, you want radios, you want security people, blah, blah, you name it. But for some reason, when it comes to a barrier, I can't put it in.
How long have we been waiting for one of these, the representative Struzzi, to get back to us? No.
It's been weeks.
Okay.
But it was getting a response back from PennDOT. I can't say that they haven't been reacting to me because they, for example, Mr. Pittman's office would always say to me, well, have you got an answer yet, etc. And so then they ended up moving forward. Representative Struzzi's office, a representative there, has been communicating with me weekly. And so I have not heard from that person this week, but I will check tomorrow. Got the written response.
So I guess what I'm trying to say, they are on top of it then.
Oh, yes.
Pittman and
Yep.
Struzzi. So they're going to try to work for us to
Absolutely.
get something.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions, comments? Want something like this on the agenda? Do you want to wait for written response? What's your feeling?
I would say wait.
Okay.
I would say wait because I don't know. I think they could come through for us, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Could be wrong, but.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Majority want to wait?
Well, how long are we going to wait?
I think we're trying to get, I think Ron's saying wait till we get a response from Struzzi.
Right, but you can't do it until June anyway, so.
I think I think you wait till you get the response from Struzzi and then you bring it back up again. I mean, if we can't get something from them, then let's put it back on the agenda, Darren.
Okay.
Did everybody hear that? You folks okay with that?
Okay. Along, buildings and grounds, letter B. In front of you, we have a quote for boiler maintenance. And the quote that you see in front of us is from Cannon Boiler Works Incorporated. Mark actually has also compared with McClure, who had done the renovations and the process of renovating at the high school, installing the new boilers. Just a comparison, the quote in front of you is $6,635. In comparison to McClure, their cost for the first year of a 5-year agreement that they would want signed is $8,040. So I also want to add that Mark indicated to me that the type of boiler that we have, those are the only 2 individuals that are certified to work on those boilers. So his recommendation would be to go with CBW for $6,635, and that would come out of the general maintenance operating budget. Mark, did you want to add anything?
Only that these boilers, we have 3 of them, 2 for heating and 1 for domestic water, have an annual service and a semi-annual service. The annual service consists of most everything that's on the sheet there, along with the semi-annual service has them pulling out the burners and servicing the burners, which adds an additional 6 hours to the service. So this year we're performing the semi-annual service. Next year's annual service should actually be cheaper. And then we'll be back on the regular schedule.
Okay. Questions, comments for Mark?
Just one question. These boilers, they were the ones that were installed during our ESCO program?
Yes.
Project?
Correct. Yes.
We didn't have, that whole deal was the energy saving portion of it would pay back the cost over time.
Correct.
And I guess, how does that weigh into this maintenance side of things? Is that something that was included in that original ESCO agreement, or this is just separate? Products were installed, devices were installed, and then it's just
Correct. Correct. So it is separate. So question, or I think what you're saying is, was the maintenance of that to see if all that qualifies, was that incorporated in it? It was not.
Okay.
Yeah. Other questions from anyone? Okay. And letter C under buildings and grounds, just want to remind anyone, you're certainly welcome to be here on February 9th at 2:00 right here in this room. That's when we'll be opening up any bids we receive for the upgrade that goes from the back of the high school to the stadium, and new would be actually going down to the restroom concession stand building. Any questions on any buildings and grounds items? Okay. If not, moving right along, athletics have 2 requests for sports volunteer, one for girls basketball, the other for track and field. So those would be listed on the agenda. Letter B, we have received a resignation of track coach for boys assistant 1 coach position. That's from Mrs. Hudak, and that's in your packet or attached for you to review also. Yep, sure. Yep.
One question I have, as far as the basketball volunteer, was there a change that another volunteer, because I think we're about halfway through the basketball season. Was there a change somewhere with?
I don't know that. I'll ask that.
I was just wondering, because usually it's like prior to a season that we have this list of volunteer. I just wondering if there was a change somewhere of needing an additional volunteer.
I don't know. I'll find it out.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Questions on any volunteer? I do know that we did approve 1 at the beginning of the season, and this would be number 2. Other questions? Okay, we'll find that out. Athletic director, we'll give just so that you know, deadline for receiving applications for athletic past Monday. In an executive session, we'll talk about applicants that have applied, and then also if athletic committee, we can set up a date and time to start interviews for that position. Any questions on any athletic item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to transportation. We do have 2 drivers listed there to approve, to add on to the list of all of our drivers. Number 9, public relations, nothing at this time. Under policies, that is only approving the policy that we had the first reading last month. So you've seen that before. It's attached and provided to you again. Again, next week, we would be approving and adopting that policy. Okay, next, nothing under correspondence. Moving on to new business. We do have a packet included this evening to look and approve a new phone service for the district. And currently we have Mitel and Mr. Gramling is going to talk to you about the reason why, what we're shifting to. Mr. Gramling? We're asking you to shift to.
Okay, so we looked at replacing our current phone system. The current phone system has been in the district for 7 years. For a few years there, it was unreliable, but recently, by going to the new fiber internet, it has become more reliable. So the reason for looking for a replacement was strictly cost. The phone system is very expansive. It is a hosted only solution. And actually all the solutions that we looked at were also hosted. But
What
we
are
did feel
hosted
that,
only solutions mean?
okay, so what that means is other than the handsets, you don't have any equipment in-house. It's all basically on the internet. So if, for instance, Mitel uses a data center in Houston and a data center in Miami. So what happens anytime somebody makes a phone call from the district, it's going over the internet to one of those data centers in Houston or Miami, and the phone call is either being placed from there, or like if it's an internal phone call, it's going out and then coming back in. So hosted just basically means it's on the internet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So with new technologies and everything, we just felt that what we were paying was way over. And as you can see, we're paying for other, in comparison to other solutions. Also, we're kind of locked in with the amount of extensions we have now for every phone we would want to add. So there's always been the desire to put a phone in the auditorium or a phone in this classroom that doesn't have one. We're kind of locked in with the number of extensions we have now and no ability to expand without increasing that cost more. The other thing is that we're locked in with the equipment. The equipment is Mitel equipment. So moving to a different solution requires buying new equipment. So unfortunately, we will, as part of this, we will be purchasing new handsets, but the new system will purchase more universal handsets that we can then move to other solutions. So the agreement that to approve is only a 24-month agreement. And at the end of that 24 months, we could just pick up and move to another solution. We're not locked in because of our existing equipment like we are with the Mitel system. So the goals for this replacement was to reduce costs. We're paying about $2,400 a month, and the solution that is a little over $800 a month. This is the number one goal, to have as many features as we have now, so we're not taking a step down. We're just moving to, at minimum, an equal system. And the other goal was to use hardware that is more universal. So as you see, I'm showing the Mitel option, which is our current system. Google Voice, that was, even with our discount, it still was $1,500 a month. And I looked at a solution from Link Computer Corporation that rebrands an 8x8, which is a hosted full-featured phone system, and it was a little over $1,500. Salzgiver came in with the cheaper option. So option, well, it is a hosted Cisco Call Manager. Cisco Call Manager is a very common system in business phone systems. Usually you would have that in-house. They are hosting it. So we're getting a full-featured phone system with the savings and the added benefits of it being hosted in-house. So there's no extra equipment that we have to do. Usually a Cisco Call Manager requires specialized server and licensing. We're getting away with all that by having them host it. Salzgiver is the company that is doing the fiber build out in the county. So they have already run the fiber along the building, and this would be bringing that fiber into the district. That is important is that there would be no future build out cost if we then looked at Salzgiver in the future for possible internet once the consortium contract has expired. It can support Cisco, Polycom, and Yalink handsets, which are all very universal in the market. Supports mobile app extension on the go, so we could have the extensions on cell phones that they would be. Requires new handsets. Unfortunately, this is 10,000, but we're looking at somewhere between 10 and 15,000. And looking at if we ran this agreement out over 5 years, we would save the district almost $77,000 over the solution. So to continue with Mitel for 5 years, that cost would be $141,857.40. The 5-year cost to switch to Salzgiver would be $65,082, and that includes $15,000 for the handsets. On the next page, I show a chart of year-over-year cost. Every year we would save money by going with Salzgiver. So even in that first year where we're purchasing handsets for $15,000, we would still see a savings over staying with Mitel. So it would be about a 8 to 9 month payback.
All the numbers would be the same and everything, right?
Yes, we would port over. There would be additional numbers. So part of the agreement is 100 DID numbers. So that's not a feature that we currently have. I believe we only have 7 DID numbers. And what DID numbers are your full extension? 724, 254, whatever.
Gotcha.
So in this ability, like every teacher, every administrator could have a direct phone. So
Okay, then since it is going through the internet, is there any lags or anything?
No.
Quality's good.
Yeah,
today.
Yeah, it's what we're currently experiencing. Of course, any internet lag does play out, but we are
But
already.
since we are on the internet, we are still opened up to getting hacked and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there protection that's needed for this?
So not really.
Okay.
Because it's already encrypted trunk.
I'm not a techie.
Yeah,
so
it would take a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not impossible, but it would take
Okay.
a sophisticated
Someone will work with
attack.
something
Yeah.
else. Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, the recurring monthly cost is $834.70 on this agreement. So. Does anyone have any questions on the agreement?
Okay. Does anyone object to having a motion to make that change?
So we're saying it'll cost us $65,000 to change over this year. Is that what I'm reading?
No, over 5 years.
I think it's over 5 years.
Yeah, that is the 5-year cost. That's not just a year one. That would be overall over 5 years.
Okay.
It would cost 65.
Okay, I'm sorry. So 5 years. So each year we'll pay six. I'm not following you. You better explain it better. I understand. Continue with Mitel. It's going to cost us $141. Is that or 141,000 plus? Is that over 5 years? Is that what we're saying? Let me ask it another way.
Yeah,
We say go ahead and switch. What's it cost out of pocket right now?
So going forward, it would be $834.70 a month plus the 15,000
Okay.
for the handsets. Whereas right now it's 24,000, yeah, $2,200 a month.
Okay. I got you.
So-
Thanks.
And Dave didn't mention, but Dave's not asking for a budget increase to pay for the handsets. I'm not sure.
No, that was, I'm hoping to purchase this year's budget this summer. But yeah, that would be included in already budgeted monies. I just included it there so you understand that there would be that upfront cost of switching the system over. But like I said, even making that initial investment of the handsets, you would still save money even in the first year because of the additional savings.
One question I have as far as the headsets go with this agreement and Saltzgiver is the one providing the handsets, correct? Or is that going to be separate?
That would be separate. We would be purchasing them most likely from an aftermarket dealer or like,
So if we lock in for a 5-year deal with Saltzgiver, that wouldn't be like a lease type equipment thing. That's going to be a separate purchase outside of.
yes, they would be.
Okay.
They would be our handsets from
Okay.
day one.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I want to be sure.
Yeah, and we're actually not locking. The only lock in here is a 2-year deal.
2-year.
Yeah, with
Right.
Saltzgiver. My guess is once that 2 years is over, we're going to come back and have this. But again, with the savings that we're seeing here, I'm not sure we could get much more competitive than this.
No, and the only reason I bring that up is I didn't want something like that to happen that would be tied into any type of agreement we have with Saltzgiver. They're just more or less providing that service.
That's right.
The hardware is going to be owned by the district.
And can be used by any service. That's right.
Yeah, and that was our goal going forward, was to make sure that we could pick up and go to another service at any time, because that's unfortunately where we're at now, that we have to replace all our handsets because they're tied into one vendor.
Nice job.
Other questions for Dave?
I was wondering, Dave, are you going to come up with an insurance plan for each of the users? You know, Josh, I know he has a tendency to shoot, hit those down or something. So you might want to think of an insurance plan.
I'm hoping that this is a frustration-free switchover. I expect some issues, but I hope that it's not so frustrating that we have users banging their handsets.
Don't take it too serious there, David.
Okay, moving along. New business, letter B. We did, of course, advertise for high school special ed, or not high school, elementary special education teacher. We're going to talk about that in executive session. We do plan to bring back top 3 people to do second round interviews on Monday. That will consist of them actually teaching in front of us. So we'll talk about and give you more details in executive session. Also, letter C for next week. We do have a FMLA request. I'll explain a little bit more of that in executive session also. Moving to letter D, we do have 2 high school students for outside placement going to the YES program. So anytime we have someone going to the outside, it takes board action to make that happen.
One question I have, YES program, is that like a certain tier that's associated with Adelphi?
Yes, that is Adelphi.
Right. So, I mean, but this YES program, is it within Adelphi? Do they have like,
Is it priced differently? Are you asking?
priced differently based on the behavior of the 2?
Okay, so Adelphi does have 2 divisions. So they have alternative education, and then they have the YES program. So the YES program is basically taking and trying to put more of information being taught to the students in 1 year, so that they can move along and get out before they become dropout.
Okay, so that, I guess in comparison to the other tier that Delphi has, it's not a, more or less a behavioral type individual, combative individual is what we're talking
No,
about.
no,
Okay.
no, no,
Okay.
no, no. Yeah, that would, they would be placed, those that get to that point, they're in all dead end. Yep. Other questions? Okay, next, we do have one cleaner that's asked to be on the substitute list, so we'll have her approved next week as a motion. If you recall, we do have the 4-hour cleaner daytime permanent job for the year still open. And if you recall, one of our employees that was in that position moved to the cafeteria monitor. So what we've been doing is actually subbing in that position. And if we get anyone during the course of time to interview cleaner position daytime, we'll certainly bring them to you. But at this point, we have no applicants for that. Next, hiring a long-term sub update, and that was from last month. We have not received any applications for that position either. And that one runs from April to the end of the school year. We do have a number of things to talk about in executive session this evening. I'll update you on some of the things we've already talked about in more detail in executive session. But is there anything that any board member wants to bring up in open session?
Mr. Johnston, I wanted to bring up, this is Ms. Dolges.
I apologize, you did.
I just wanted to remind the board that we do take the second Wednesday of every month, we do take students to the Indiana radio station. So this coming Wednesday, the 10th, we will be on the radio station, the WDAD, at 8:45. And I will be every month, Mrs. Eglin and I take some high school and some elementary students. Last month, we had basketball players. This month, I will be taking some kids from our FBLA because not next week, the following week is FBLA week. So they will be doing a variety of activities. And we actually had 26 kids qualify for the state competition with our FBLA team. And also, I will be having some students from student council there. Our school is currently doing a donation drive. We have students collecting, the high school and the elementary doing a collection. They're collecting everything from toothbrushes, toothpaste, floss, deodorant, soaps, shampoos, Band-Aids, paper towels, to clothing, hats, mittens, items like that. And those items collected will stay within our district for any students that have a need or are deemed homeless. So we have that going on. That collection is from February 8th to the 12th. And anybody who would like to make a donation, you can either donate items or we take gift cards for Walmart or a grocery store so that we can give things to families in need.
Okay. Any other additional item to talk about in open session? Okay, seeing none, we will be having an executive session following this meeting. And then we will also be having our business meeting next Thursday evening.